Hi, this is Paul James Caiden, and welcome to the Spirit Side Podcast. In this show, we will endeavor to talk about a wide array of subjects with a balanced and spiritual perspective. We will discuss such things as current events, strange stories in the news, spirituality, the paranormal, and much more. But most importantly, it is my hope that this humble podcast will keep people informed and make a positive impact in the lives of those who listen. So once again, welcome, and I'll see you on the spirit side. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Spirit Side. I'm Paul James Caiden, and today we have another very interesting topic for you on the show. And this one makes me think of several different things, being one who is very spiritually oriented, has studied a lot of prophecies and looked into a lot of conspiracy theories and crazy things that our government is doing. So when I see things like this, I start to wonder, where is it all going to lead? And you may be asking, well, what is he talking about? What is he puzzling and pondering over? Well, it's an article that's just recently hit the internet. It seems to be all over the place on various news outlets on the web. I'm actually looking at it on Fox News. Not that I'm a big fan of Fox News, but it's interesting that some of the big news channels are covering this. And it is... The topic is UFOs are coming out of black holes and altering galaxies forever. Now, the article begins by saying black holes are still a mysterious force of space-time, with the first image of one having been released just a few short months ago. Now, a new study suggests that UFOs are coming out of them, helping to reshape galaxies along the way. Just skipping down in the article a little bit, getting a little bit of an idea what they're talking about here. The article goes on to say that scientists were studying galaxy PG 114 plus 445, which is described as active, where they were able to see the UFOs escaping using the European Space Agency X-ray Multi-Mirror Mission telescope. According to the researchers, the energy from the UFO is being transferred to other winds, such as warmer absorbers near the black hole, causing these winds to move at incredible speeds. We believe that this is the point when the UFO touches the interstellar matter and sweeps it away like a snowplow. Sarah Finelli added, Sarah Finelli is one of the researchers, we call this an untrained ultra-fast outflow because the UFO at this stage is penetrating the interstellar matter. It's similar to wind pushing boats in the sea. A warmer absorber is a slow-moving outflow from the black hole, which often travels at much lower speeds of hundreds of km's and have similar physical characteristics, such as particle density and ionization, to the surrounding interstellar matter. Now, the thing that I think about, and I'm going to leave a link to this article below so you can go and read it yourself without me skipping around and touching on some confusing words or phrases that might be beyond our comprehension here as lay people. But it makes me think of several things. When we're talking about UFOs, there's a lot of strange phenomenon around these craft. I mean, we're told that, or mostly told to believe that they are from another solar system. You know, they're out there in outer space, spaceships, Star Trek, you know, all this sort of thing. But as I've said in previous podcasts on this topic in the past, that there are some researchers who believe that these things are interdimensional. They're not coming from far out in space. They're coming from another dimension, another reality that we naturally cannot see or see into. Since I believe it was World War I. No, actually, it was World War II. If you look up the Foo Fighters of World War II, a lot of pilots were saying that they were tailed or dive bombed by these orbs of light, and the Germans thought they were ours, and we thought that they were the Germans, that they had some technology we didn't know about. And many of the pilots, when they said they would open fire on these balls of light, which they called Foo Fighters, and the bullets would go right through them, like they were a ghost. And now Foo Fighters are a part of the whole UFO phenomenon. And it's interesting to note also, if you go back and listen to the podcast I did with Richard Lenny on Wednesday, he talks about these orbs that are always around airplanes, and people are catching them. They're all over the internet, all over YouTube. People on airplanes seeing these little orbs, you know, flying next to the airplane. People on the ground see them under the airplane. You know, it seems like airplanes are always being tailed by these mysterious orbs. So are they the same Foo Fighters from World War II? Because the Foo Fighters were orbs. They were very bright, luminescent, but apparently we could not hit them with our weapons. They passed right through. And now you have, on top of that, the phenomenon of unidentified flying objects that change shape. They're circular, they're square, they're elongated, they're an amorphous blob. You know, they kind of almost like plasma. They swirl and bend and take on different forms as people watch them or film them. So are these things physical objects? And when we see them as flying saucers or orbs or the big triangular craft, is that their true form or just what they want us to see? Just what they're showing themselves to be to us? There are accounts. There's a place, I used to live in Middletown, New York. It was in Orange County. And about 20-minute drive from me was Pine Bush, New York. And if you look up Pine Bush, New York, it is notorious for UFO activity. People used to go, I don't know if they still do it or not, but they used to go in Pine Bush to like open fields at night. Just droves of people with telescopes and binoculars and camcorders. It was a big UFO hotspot. And on more than one occasion, and a couple of times in broad daylight, and there was a count of it on the old TV show Sightings. Does anybody remember Sightings with John White? They always talked about UFOs and ghosts and things of the paranormal. And one of these accounts was mentioned on sightings in Pine Bush, where a UFO in the sky shot straight down to the ground, hit the ground as if it were going to crash, but then just disappeared as if it went into the ground. So, what are these things that can be transparent, almost immaterial, change shape, zip out of the sky and seemingly go right into solid ground? I mean, to me, this sounds a little bit more than just advanced technology, especially when you marry the fact of there are many, many cases in ufology where people have either seen a UFO very up close and personal or seen the occupants of the UFO, not necessarily abducted, but saw the craft hovering and some strange beings near the craft. And later on, began to experience poltergeist-like activity in their homes. Objects moving by themselves, bumps in the night, anything, you would think it was a haunted house. And they never had anything like that in their homes before until they had this UFO encounter. So why would beings from another planet out there somewhere in outer space, why would they be so closely connected and related to paranormal activity, as we call it here on the earth, by seeing them? So it makes me wonder what these things are really. And how does all this marry into UFOs flying through black holes and shaping galaxies? Well, we're going to get to that in just a moment. But the UFO phenomenon is really, if you really dig into this and start to get past just little green men from Mars or the Greys or wherever they're supposed to be from, there's a lot of really bizarre accounts and phenomenon around UFOs. And not to mention, as I always say, the abduction experience. Now, we've had some very well-known researchers and scientists and psychologists. If you go back and research John Mack, I think he was a psychologist, I think, in Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. And he got involved in talking to people, abductees. And at first he thought this is ridiculous. These people it's sleep paralysis. They're making this up. This is nonsense. But the more he dug into it, the more here a psychologist from a big name university came to the conclusion that there's something to this and it's really bizarre. And long story short, John Mack, he ended up losing his position at this university because they warned him, hey, stop researching this, stop talking about this. You're going to give the university a bad name. We're going to look, weird. And he refused. He said, no, this is important. And he ended up losing his position. And he has since passed on, but just one of the names that come up of people who have encountered this and believe there's something to it, this whole abduction phenomenon. And I'm sure I don't have to tell most of you listening to this podcast, abduction stories are not pretty. They can be very painful. They can be very sexual. They take sperm, they take eggs, they take flesh samples, needles, very long needles, and people's abdomens and belly buttons and things up the nose and things up places you don't even want to think about. And it can be very, very sadistic and very sexual at times. And the thing that always caught my attention, and if you do this research, I heard, I believe it was Jacques Vallée who may have said it. I could be wrong on that, but there was a prominent UFO researcher, author, who said, they're not so sure these things are from other planets because their behavior is very much similar to that of the fairies and the wee people and the goblins and the gremlins of old who abducted people, took them in the night, did these painful experiments, very sadistic, very sexual at times. It's almost identical. But they had a different name for it back then and a different description. So again, I asked the question, if whatever these things are they appearing to us in the form of UFO, in the form of being, just the way they want us to see them? Back then, people believed in fairies and the little folk and, all kind of hobgoblins of the forest that would get you and do terrible things to you. So this was the shape that they had. Now we believe in life from other planets, aliens, UFOs, and this is the shape that they have. But their behavior is very much the same. And I say all this because now getting to the article, what is concerning to me is that we see these things now allegedly coming out of black holes, pushing around interstellar matter, creating great winds that shape galaxies. I mean, who knows where this goes next? And we already have people down here on planet Earth who believe that our origins are from an alien race, like Prometheus, the movie Prometheus. And that might be so. That very well may be so, but I'm not so sure that these aliens, in air quotes, are from where we think they are. So what happens when the day comes that we make some kind of contact? And that day will come. The day is going to come. I almost feel that it will come in my lifetime. I could be wrong. But either way, that day is coming. And what are these beings going to say? What are they going to present themselves to be? What are the people in our government and scientific community going to present them to be? the creators of the universe, the gods, our lords and masters. You see, we can't, no matter what we say, we can say, oh, I'm a Christian, oh, I'm a Buddhist, or a Buddhist, oh boy, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in anything, it's all nonsense. But no matter what we claim to be, we all have this spiritual DNA within us. One way or another, we'll all go there, even the person who says, oh, I'm an atheist. Now, they may not believe in the higher consciousness, the spiritual being we call God, because they can't cut it up in the laboratory, they can't see it with the physical eye. So nope, that we don't believe in that. We're rational. We only believe what we can see and measure and quantify. But now, if something comes and lands, in the middle of the White House lawn or wherever, and something or someone comes out and says, hi there, yeah, we made you guys. Now that's something they can see, they can touch, they can question. And yeah, you better believe they'll believe it. And if these beings seem smarter, more technologically advanced, even a little spiritual, because let's face it, in the abduction phenomenon, many of these beings have been said to walk right through the wall, come down through the ceiling like a ghost or an angel. Right through solid matter, take the person in the bed, and some people will say they don't know if it was their actual physical body that was taken, or if it was their soul, some etheric, astral, spiritual part of them that these beings took, and they will take them right through the solid wall, right up through the ceiling, right through the closed window. So if we were to ever encounter some kind of beings that can demonstrate these kind of capabilities, people are going to be in awe. And many people will start to look at them as gods. So with this whole new disclosure of the UFO phenomenon, I feel it's only going to get bigger and better from here. Something's going to happen with this. And I don't necessarily think that it's going to be good, at least to start out with. Now, do I think all UFO phenomenon is bad? I don't. I believe what we call UFOs. I believe what we call fast walkers. This maybe some of these spheres that we see, trailing airplanes, the Foo Fighters of World War II. Some of them could be what we call demonic entities that are there to deceive us in some way. But I also think some of them could be what we call angelic. Because what do we know about angels? They are a flame of fire. They travel like lightning. They are like wind. It is said that they do travel in chariots, but what is a chariot to an angel? Now, what is an angel? It is a spiritual being. What is a demon? It is a spiritual being. They're very similar. But one is of the light, one is not. But their capabilities, their behavior, the things that they can do are very similar in nature. So if beings we call angels travel in chariots of light, the chariots of God, then who's to say that the bad guys don't have the same capability? And when we look at these UFOs going through the universe, shaping and reshaping galaxies, I find it very interesting that if you really dig deep into angelology, that it says that, God has given there's angels all through the universe. There's an angel that watches over every planet, every star, every person, every blade of grass. And God has spoke or caused the creation to burst into existence, that the universe is expanding. But the angels, there are certain angels who are shaping it. So I find that to be quite interesting in light of this article. So maybe what these researchers caught glimpse of was not necessarily a bad thing, but could some bad thing, in air quotes once again, as I always say, land on the White House lawn, come out, take credit for it all, give us a big snow job, and deceive a lot of people. Well, I think that very well could happen. I've said, the video is no longer here where I addressed Tyler at Secure Team. And I had made the statement that I think our government and other governments of the world have had interaction with some of these beings for a very long time now. And just like we're now starting to get the disclosure, UFOs are everywhere. Well, that statement that I made back then and have made for many years, that our government could be interacting with some of these beings for a very long time, it really, it seems more probable than not to me at this moment. Because look what our government has done with the UFOs. No, there's nothing to release. There's no secret documents to release. There's nothing to it. No proof of it. It's all swamp gas, all lightning, it's all Venus. Nothing here to see. Now all of a sudden our government is saying they're everywhere, and they've been everywhere for decades. So if we can't see that these people are officials are being very dishonest with us about this topic and who knows what else, do you think they're going to tell us that they've had interaction with these things for a very long time? And if they have, I'll guarantee you this: the things that they're talking to, conspiring with, planning with, are not the good guys. Because the good guys aren't going to come down and conspire with our government about who knows what, and God knows what they're doing, because we know how politicians are, further their own agenda. We know how the elitists are, further their own agenda, control all the resources. I play with the idea, is this why people in high positions, some of them act so ignorantly? Well, it doesn't matter if all the bees die off. We're not even going to track that anymore, but we're going to let we're going to pass this pesticide that will kill off honeybees, but we're not going to track that anymore. Well, we're going to dump all kind of junk in the ocean. It doesn't matter. We're going to spray particulates and chemicals and nonsense in the atmosphere, and, you know, it'll poison the water and kill trees, and, you know, but we're not going to worry about that. Do they do these things because they have some kind of promise, albeit a false promise, that someone's going to have their back when all is said and done? Their little friends from somewhere will pull them out of the hole. I mean, that's just a theory, but it's something I think about. Is that why some of these people do the things they do? Almost like they have no brain, no conscience, no soul. And they think in the end they're going to be masters of the universe. Do they think that for a reason? Other than just a very big, inflated ego? Could be. But that's the thing I wanted to say in this podcast. We have to be careful when it comes to this kind of topic and this kind of phenomenon. Because just because we don't understand something, or it may look superior or smarter or even godlike, doesn't necessarily mean that it is God or God-like. It may very well be something that's there to trap and deceive you in a way that you can't even fathom. And I go, when I think about this, to those few Bible verses that say even Lucifer can masquerade as an angel of light. I think of the Bible verse that says in the end times, men's hearts will fail them out of fear of what's coming upon the earth. I think about many of the things written in Revelation where it talks about these strange creatures that are coming out of the abyss or coming out of the ground. You know, we just don't know how all this will play out, or what some of these creatures may be. I mean, they could be symbolic, they could be literal. As it's going right now, it's looking more and more like eventually, inevitably, some kind of being is going to make its way to our planet, our reality. And I think a lot of people will be in awe of these beings because they're going to be carried away with the physicality of the encounter. Look at them. Look what they can do. Look what they have. Look at the wisdom. Look how great they are. They're not going to look at the underlying message or motive of these things when it happens. I don't even think it's a matter of if. I think it's a when. I mean, look at the weird things people are seeing on planet Earth right now. Again, go back and listen to the podcast I did with Richard Lenny on Wednesday. The bizarre things people are seeing all over the place. Winged creatures, small winged creatures, orbs. Orbs are everywhere. I mean, all over the world, people are taking photographs and movies of these orbs and saying, what is it? What is this? I never seen this before. Now I go out at night and they're all over the place. You know, it's bizarre. It is definitely bizarre. So I asked the question, UFOs and aliens, are they angel, alien, or other? Because if you really dig deep into this subject, they don't seem like a bunch of nuts and bolts, saucers flying around out there. This is something else. It behaves a whole lot differently. There's a lot of very strange phenomenon around this thing. I mean, I could make a whole other podcast on top of this one talking about the strange things involved with UFO sightings and UFO occupant sightings. It'll take you down the rabbit hole. It definitely will. So just be careful, be careful what you hear. Be careful if something does land on the proverbial White House lawn, use a little discernment, because it might not be what we think it is. And, in closing this podcast out, I want to say, when I talk about these orbs that are all over the place, the first person, this is probably about 2 years ago, a friend of mine that's been on this podcast before, Kevin Town. Sorry, folks, for the phone ringing in the background. I am working once again as I do this podcast, so occupational hazard. Anyway, I was talking about my friend Kevin Town about 2 years ago. He was the first person I saw that was filming these strange multicolored orbs in his backyard over the trees. And it was probably about a month or two after he made his first video. People all over were filming them on people that lived in the woods, on back roads, different parts of the country, all over, saying, "What is this? I never saw this before, but now they're here every night, and I have no idea what they are." So yeah, these orbs are definitely everywhere. And I bring up Kevin because I did do a show with him, and I meant to post the link on Monday, but I had forgotten. So if you want to go over to Kevin's channel, show him some love, listen to the podcast we did together on his YouTube channel. We did a podcast on spiritual truth with all the different voices out there, all the different opinions. How do we know? How do we know when we have actual spiritual truth? So if you'd like to listen to that podcast on his channel, his channel is called Getting Along Alone. The podcast is Spiritual Truth, and the link will be below if you'd like to go over and listen to that and check out some of his other videos. So with that being said, watch the skies. Be very discerning when it comes to this whole UFO phenomenon. And I will see you all next time here on the Spirit Side.